Galactic pirates weren't known for being smart. But accidentally sending a distress signal to Earth's Terran command? That was historical. In the shadow of a dying star, aboard a rusted gunmetal freighter that smelled faintly of fried circuitry and unwashed ambition, the pirate ship Grievous Bliss prepared to make the worst decision in its criminal career. "Captain? I think I pressed something," yelled Clark, a lanky, feathered creature whose eyes were too close together and whose fingers were definitely too many. "You think?" snapped Captain Velcron, slamming his mandibles shut around the half-smoked stimstick. "What did you press, Clark?" Clark sheepishly pointed to a blinking red button that now screamed a universal alert in 27 dialects. Velcron's blackened scales flushed a sickly green. "That's the Terran distress frequency." A silence as cold as vacuum fell over the bridge. "You mean Earth?" said one of the junior pirates. "Like actual humans?" "Someone mute that beacon!" Velcron roared. "Before some psychotic apex monkey decides to show up with a battleship and a smile." But it was too late. The signal had already reached them. Half a galaxy away, deep within Earth-controlled space, Commander Lisa Voss was pouring herself a cup of chamomile tea when the notification chimed. She looked up from her polished mahogany desk aboard the TNS Ataraxia, flagship of the 7th Terran Fleet. Around her, the command center buzzed in measured silence. No one raised their voice, no one needed to. A junior officer approached, holding a data slate. "Commander, we received a priority-level SOS, originating from a pirate vessel orbiting the Ornos Belt." Lisa glanced down at her tea. Then at the slate. "Oh," she said softly, eyes narrowing. "That's bold." The officer hesitated. "Shall I classify it as accidental or?" Lisa gave a polite smile, the kind that made admirals sweat and diplomats change their pants. "Let's assume sincerity. And respond accordingly." She tapped her console, transmitting the signal to her ship's AI. "Prepare a scout vessel. Small crew. No weapons visible. Just observe." "Observe, ma'am?" the officer asked. "I want them to feel safe," she said, sipping her tea. "Right before we end them." Back in the Ornos Belt, aboard the Grievous Bliss, the atmosphere had shifted from frantic to funereal. "They're not coming," muttered First Mate Jill, a massive insective with a fondness for pessimism. Velcron snarled. "That's Earth. They're slow. Bureaucratic. Probably still signing forms." Clark, still hovering near the beacon, chirped nervously. "What if they don't send a fleet? What if it's just like one guy?" Jill groaned. "Worse. What if it's a diplomat?" Right on cue, a flash of light shimmered near the edge of the asteroid ring. A sleek, obsidian-black Terran scout ship phased into existence. No guns, no shields raised. Just there. Velcron squinted. "That's it? That's all they sent?" "Maybe it's a mercy ship," Clark said hopefully. The rest of the crew exchanged glances. Everyone on the bridge silently agreed they were going to die. Inside the Terran scout ship, Lieutenant Harper leaned back in his seat, chewing a protein bar. "Think they'll try to talk?" Beside him, Ensign Zhao smiled. "Pirates always do. Until they realize they're talking to a live-streaming drone connected directly to the Terran High Command." He tapped the console. "Broadcast initiated. Let's see how dumb this gets." The pirate's voice came through the static. Yes. This is Captain Velcron of the independent vessel Grievous Bliss. We experienced technical difficulties and require assistance. We are willing to negotiate terms." Zhao looked at Harper. "You want to respond?" Harper shrugged. "Nah. Let them sweat." Lisa watched the broadcast from her command deck. She leaned forward slowly, fingers steepled beneath her chin. "They're bluffing," she said, voice calm. "No hostages. No leverage. No escape." "Orders, Commander?" her comms officer asked. Lisa stood. "Signal the fleet. Silent mobilization. Full deployment in 30. Leave orbit in 60. I want to be in visual range before they understand what's happening. The officer hesitated. And what do we tell Central Command? Lisa's smile returned. That we're responding to a cry for help. 30 minutes later, the first long-range sensors in the region detected a gravitational distortion. An observatory on a nearby neutral colony pinged a warning: a Terran fleet was moving. Within 10 minutes, 6 planetary governors sent panicked diplomatic queries to Earth. Within 15, several criminal syndicates initiated full evacuation protocols. Velcron, still unaware, was busy arguing with a toaster. This damn human tech, why does their food heater have Bluetooth? Jill checked the external sensors. Captain? What? We've got a signature. No, wait, 42. The view screen flickered, then lit up with the Terran Armada entering system orbit like silent judgment. Rows of matte black ships, running cold, lights off, formation perfect. No warning shots. No threats. Just presence. Velcron's limbs locked up. I thought they were extinct. No, Clark whispered. We just hoped they were. Back on the Ataraxia, Lisa stood before the observation deck, staring into the stars. Behind her, a junior officer spoke, hesitant. Why send the full fleet for a pirate crew, ma'am? Lisa didn't turn. Because someone needs to remind the galaxy. Humanity doesn't ignore distress calls. We answer them. She finally turned around, gaze sharp as laser fire. And sometimes, mercy looks a lot like annihilation. Captain Velcron paced the bridge of the Grievous Bliss, mandibles twitching and tail flicking with the nervous energy of someone who had just realized he'd summoned death in formal attire. 42 Terran warships hovered in the asteroid belt. Not firing. Not moving. Just watching. Maybe it's a misunderstanding, Clark said from his station, feathers pressed flat against his narrow skull. It's not a misunderstanding, Jill grumbled. It's a Terran chess game. And we're already in checkmate. Velcron halted mid-pace. Shut up. Maybe they want to talk. He slammed a button on the comm panel. This is Captain Velcron of the Grievous Bliss, he said, voice straining for dignity. We acknowledge the Terran presence. No hostilities intended. We apologize for the distress beacon. It was accidental. The reply came moments later. Crisp. Human. Female. Apology accepted. This is Commander Lisa Voss of the TNS Ataraxia. We appreciate your honesty. Velcron blinked. That sounded reasonable. We understand your situation. Lisa continued. We'd like to offer assistance. Medical aid. Supplies. Perhaps even asylum. Jill growled. They're smiling, Captain. I can hear it. Velcron leaned toward the mic. That's very generous. We're a generous species, Lisa replied smoothly. Please prepare for docking. I'll send over a diplomatic envoy. The comm went dead. Velcron slumped into his chair. We might survive this, he said. Jill stared at him. You sweet, stupid fool. Aboard the Terran Envoy shuttle, Lieutenant Harper adjusted the cuffs of his uniform jacket and ran a hand through his hair. He looked like a vacationing history teacher, polite, smiling, and slightly bored. He was also one of Earth's most decorated special operations tacticians. Ensign Zhao, seated beside him, loaded a diplomatic package into the shuttle's console. It included welcome messages, sanitized ship schematics, and a collection of Terran literature translated into Galactic Common. Zhao smirked. You really giving them the art of war again? Humans do love repeating their mistakes, Harper replied, buckling his seatbelt. Just smile a lot, Zhao added. Terrifies them more than guns. The Grievous Bliss's docking bay was barely functioning, but it managed to open its airlock without killing anyone. That counted as a win. Harper stepped aboard, looking around at the grimy corridor with polite interest. Charming, he said. Velcron met him at the entrance, flanked by Jill and a half-dozen crew members who looked like they wanted to melt into the walls. Lieutenant Harper, Harper said, extending a hand. Pleasure. Velcrun hesitated, then shook it. His claws trembled. I understand you've had a rough time, Harper continued, walking casually through the corridor. Unfortunate beacon mishap. You know, we get those all the time. Jill muttered under his breath. No, you don't. We're very interested in understanding your operations, Harper said. Mapping local anomalies, trade routes, pirate activity, all the little details that help keep the galaxy safe. Velcrun coughed. You want maps? Maps, Harper said with a grin. And cooperation. He turned slowly. You see, Commander Voss believes in second chances. A chance to change. To contribute. And if we don't? Jill asked. Oh, that's the best part, Harper said warmly. You'll never have to worry about anything again. Back on the Ataraxia, Lisa Voss stood in her private strategy room, watching three-dimensional fleet positions as if reading a bedtime story. Officers passed her updates like nervous interns passing sticky notes to a predator. Shall we prepare firing solutions? Her weapons chief asked. No. Not yet, Lisa said. We offer mercy first. Just long enough for them to hang themselves with it. She zoomed in on the Grievous Bliss and its position in the asteroid field. Once Harper's inside, set drones to disable the engines. Quietly. I don't want a show. I want inevitability. Yes, ma'am. She turned to her communications officer. Send a signal to our border patrol fleets. Tell them to prepare humanitarian supplies. For who? The officer asked. Lisa's eyes narrowed. For the prisoners. Meanwhile, Harper was seated at the Grievous Bliss's cracked mess table, sipping something pretending to be tea. Clark offered him a slice of something gelatinous. Human delicacy, he said, smiling nervously. We replicated it from your files. Jell-O. Harper took a bite. It wobbled aggressively. Delightful, he said with a straight face. Jill leaned against the wall, watching Harper like a bomb that hadn't gone off yet. So what now? Jill asked. We give you our data and you leave? Oh no, Harper said, dabbing his mouth with a napkin. That would defeat the purpose. Velcrun frowned. The purpose? We're here to help, Harper said cheerfully. Help you become better. Safer. Less pirate. Why? And if we decline? Harper stood, still smiling. Then we assume you're a danger to galactic peace. And peace, as you know, is something humanity values deeply. He glanced at the cracked viewport, where the black shapes of the Terran fleet hovered silently. So deeply, Harper added, we'll kill for it. 10 minutes later, Velcrun stormed back to the bridge. He's insane, he hissed. They're all insane. Clark nodded rapidly. He offered to redecorate my quarters. Said it would soothe the transition. What does that mean? Before Jill could reply, the lights flickered. Captain? Clark pointed at the sensor panel. Our engines just went offline. What? Jill checked a secondary console. Not just offline. Disabled. Like surgically. A cold silence descended. Then the main comm crackled. Lisa's voice, calm and pleasant, filled the bridge. Captain Velcrun. I hope our envoy found you well. I understand you're in a difficult position. Please know we're here to assist. I'd suggest you surrender now, before things become irreversible. Velcrun's claws curled. What do we do? Clark whispered. Jill looked at the screen. Looked at the fleet. We do the only thing smart pirates ever do when they see humans smiling. Velcrun exhaled shakily. We surrender. Lisa sipped her tea as the surrender confirmation arrived. Her XO approached. It's done. Of course it is, Lisa said. They always fold. Right after the smile and right before the fleet moves. She stood and walked to the main viewing deck. And now, she said softly, let's see which other rats come out of hiding. Her eyes scanned the starfield, already plotting her next move. Because where one distress signal rang, others soon followed. And humanity, as always, was listening. The grievous bliss floated silently in orbit, held in place like an insect in amber. Powerless. Empty of threat. But full of implications. Across the sector, systems buzzed with quiet panic. Word had traveled, first as rumor, now as warning. Humanity had responded to a pirate's cry for help. And the response hadn't been missiles. Not at first. It had been a handshake, a smile, and then the gentle crush of inevitability. On the Terran flagship TNS Ataraxia, Commander Lisa Voss read the reports from her lieutenants with a still face and a sharp mind. 37 vessels responded to the incident, her intelligence officer said, sliding a datapad across the table. 4 tried to jump out of system. We let them go. 2 are cloaked in nearby fields. We're tracking them quietly. Lisa nodded. And the rest? Waiting. Listening. Every pirate, smuggler, and opportunist in the sector is holding their breath. Perfect, she murmured. Let them. Fear is fuel. She tapped the datapad twice. Time to tighten the noose. Harper stood in the Grievous Bliss's primary comms room, which now also served as his temporary office. It was cleaner now. Calmer. His polite presence was spreading like disinfectant. He clicked on the internal broadcast system and leaned into the mic. Attention, crew of the Grievous Bliss, he said cheerfully. As part of your rehabilitation, each of you will be interviewed by Terran psychological officers. There will be snacks. Cooperation earns privileges. Resistance earns exercise. A pause. And by exercise, I mean you'll be fixing the ship's sanitation systems under supervision. He clicked off the mic and turned to Zhao. They're terrified of bureaucracy, he said, amused. They should be. It's the most efficient weapon we have. 3 parsecs away, in the asteroid haven of Sinnel's Run, 8 pirate captains met in a shadowed chamber carved into stone and steel. These aren't soldiers, one of them growled, a feline alien with eyes like molten gold. They're actors. They play nice. They sip tea. And then your engines are gone, your crew's filling out paperwork, and you're scheduling therapy sessions. Another captain, a bulbous Cythery with bioluminescent veins, shivered. My cousin was on the Scrap Vulture. Said a Terran captain offered him a blanket and cocoa. Then confiscated his weapons, his credits, and gave him a pamphlet titled So You've Been Liberated. Nervous laughter. Then silence. They're not here to destroy us, one muttered. They're here to reprogram us. And that was worse. Back on the Ataraxia, Lisa entered the observation wing, a long chamber lined with translucent screens displaying communication traffic across nearby sectors. She pointed at one flashing symbol, an incoming coded transmission. Pirate frequency? Yes, ma'am. Origin Nixian Fringe. They're offering terms. She smiled. I love when they try to bargain before we've even threatened them. She tapped her comms. Patch me through. A grainy, flickering image appeared. A lizard-faced creature, wearing the ragged uniform of the Starbreaker Syndicate. This is Vex Soren of the Fringe Concord. We've seen your handling of the Grievous Bliss. We propose neutrality. A truce. We stay out of your lanes. You stay out of ours. Lisa tilted her head. Mr. Soren, we appreciate your offer. Truly. It shows vision. But I'm afraid it's not our lanes you're in. It's your galaxy that's in our care. Soren narrowed his eyes. You can't police the stars. Of course we can, Lisa said. We just haven't had a reason. Until now. She ended the call. Later, in the mess hall of the Grievous Bliss, Harper sat at a round table with 6 of the ship's former officers. None of them looked comfortable. So, he said pleasantly, I've reviewed your files. Theft, extortion, blockade running. Oh, and someone once impersonated a diplomat to smuggle spice through a border patrol. Very creative. Clark cleared his throat. That was me. Harper smiled. Then you'll enjoy your new role. We're assigning you to logistics. Supply chain integrity. After all, who better to spot loopholes than someone who's crawled through them? The officer stared. You're rehiring us? Velcrun asked. Of course, Harper said. Terran philosophy, everyone gets a second chance. You just don't get a third. He stood and gathered his datapad. Oh, and you'll be under probationary oversight by a mixed-species council. Violations will result in reassignment to asteroid reclamation. Hard hats provided. He exited the room, humming to himself. Behind him, Jill leaned to Velcrun. They're not killing us, he said. They're converting us. Velcrun's eyes twitched. Is that better? Jill didn't answer. Commander Voss stood on the bridge, eyes fixed on the expanding strategic map. 12 new systems lit up with whispered alerts, minor pirate bands, smuggler corridors, even a rogue mercenary clan offering its services to anyone but humans. She turned to her XO. Tell me about the distress signal from Virality 6. A false flag, likely, the officer replied. Probably bait for a trap. Voss smiled coldly. Good. We'll spring it. Deploy the diplomatic fleet? No, she said. Deploy the Explorer class? The ones with the peace banners and the advanced targeting arrays. Yes, ma'am. And prepare a cultural gift crate. Include Terran coffee this time. She walked to the viewport, where the quiet gleam of Earth's ships glimmered like stars. We don't win by burning worlds, she whispered. We win by owning the fear that comes before fire. In the galactic underweb, encrypted forums and shadow networks buzzed. They don't even raise their voices. They offer you freedom, after they rewire your loyalty. Their leaders smile like poets. Their soldiers behave like saints. But every step they take pushes you into a corner. Avoid Terran space. Avoid their signals. Never answer a human distress call. But it was already too late. Humanity had found the perfect strategy. They didn't come as conquerors. They came as caretakers. And the galaxy had never been more terrified. The diplomatic envoy arrived in Virality 6 orbit cloaked in polished chrome, peace banners flowing from retractable arrays, and Terran emblems carved in gold. To the untrained eye, it looked ceremonial. Harmless. To those who had already encountered humanity's form of diplomacy, it was a surgical instrument, elegant, deliberate, and sharp. Commander Lisa Voss stood at the command deck's central platform, hands clasped neatly behind her back, expression unreadable. Do we have confirmation on the nature of the signal? She asked. Her XO nodded. Yes, ma'am. It was artificial. Pirated beacon code. The same one the Grievous Bliss used to lure passing ships. Who's behind it? Data triangulates to a splinter group of the Shraskan Syndicate. Likely attempting to bait or sabotage human response teams. Possibly hoping to capture Terran tech. Lisa's lips curved faintly, not quite a smile. Let's not disappoint them. Down on Virality 6, nestled in its red dust and jagged canyons, a temporary base buzzed with alien mercenaries. They had no formal command structure, only shared greed and a contract that promised credits by the ton for any successful capture of Terran personnel. They weren't ready for Harper. Or for how casually he walked into their stronghold without a weapon, sipping a cup of steaming coffee, and smiling like he was here for a friendly chat. The mercs didn't react at first. They thought he was lost. Or mad. Harper stopped in the middle of their central square, looked around, then set his mug down on a nearby crate. Hi there, he said warmly. Terran Consular Corps. You folks sent a distress call. A Shraskan enforcer, all armored plates and twitching mandibles, stepped forward. You came here alone? Alone is relative, Harper said, gesturing up toward the sky. I'm the polite part. The rest is in orbit. The enforcer snarled. We're not afraid of you. I know, Harper said gently. That's why this is going to be memorable. Above, the Ataraxia began its silent descent into low orbit. No weapons fire. No sirens. Just its growing presence blotting out the horizon, casting a long shadow over the red sands below. Inside, Lisa reviewed live feeds from Harper's suit cam. 10 visible guards. 3 snipers on the ridgeline, No sign of heavier artillery, her tactical officer reported. They think they're in control, Lisa said. Her XO raised a brow. Are they? No, she said. But let them think so for 2 more minutes. Back at the outpost, Harper leaned against the support beam, arms casually folded. I'll give you this, he said. You've got guts. Hijacking a Terran SOS code? That takes confidence. Or desperation. One of the mercs scoffed. You're stalling. Not really, Harper replied. You already triggered it when I arrived. Proximity-based failsafe. Clever, right? The Shraskin's eyes narrowed. Triggered what? Harper tilted his head. Full-spectrum comms isolation. Cloak satellite sweep. Terrain-mapped EMP field. And my favorite part, a diplomatic silence protocol. A beat. What does that mean? Another merc asked. It means, Harper said, you can't call for help, you can't run, and every piece of tech you own is now one firmware update away from joining the Terran registry. The lights dimmed. The base's comms stuttered. One by one, weapons powered down. What the hell did you do? Harper grinned. I introduced you to our real specialty, peaceful compliance through complete infrastructure hijack. The mercenaries panicked, scrambled for backup systems, tried to flee. But their ship's doors wouldn't open. Their dropships wouldn't lift. Their encrypted files now bore a cheery Terran emblem labeled Welcome Package. Some turned to fight. That was expected. Above, the Ataraxia launched non-lethal drones, calm spheres that glided through corridors, disabling combatants with precision shocks and polite pre-recorded voices. Please remain still. Your rehabilitation is important to us. Thank you for your cooperation. Resistance will be met with firm courtesy. Your behavior is being documented for possible Terran citizenship consideration. Commander Voss monitored the feed. The trap had not only closed, it had tucked in its victims like a bedtime story. Hours later, Harper returned to the surface, dusted off his jacket, and sipped the last of his now cold coffee. Around him, the mercenaries sat zip-tied in clusters, grumbling, stunned, or simply staring into space. A few were receiving snacks from Terran personnel. Lisa arrived in a dropship and stepped onto the red soil, her boots pristine. She surveyed the scene. How's our outreach going? Harper shrugged. 10% combative, 60% confused. The rest think we're about to skin them alive. Good, she said. Let them stew in ambiguity. Harper smiled. You always did like subtle terror. I call it structured enlightenment. That evening, Terran networks across 3 sectors lit up with broadcasts. Not threats. Not ultimatums. Just documentation. Footage of Terran diplomats calmly walking into hostile bases. Alien pirates eating Terran chocolate under supervision. Mercenaries being taught de-escalation by human psychologists. The message was clear. We don't conquer. We correct. We don't destroy. We reprogram. And we're very, very good at it. In the command chamber of a rival syndicate halfway across the galaxy, the broadcast played on loop. The warlord, a jagged, scarred Brakari general named Tunorik, watched with growing discomfort. Is this propaganda? He asked. His aide shook his head. This is what they do. They smile. They compliment. They offer water. And then your organization files quarterly reports under a Terran audit team. Auric growled. Prepare the fleet. Retaliation? Evacuation, Auric said grimly. We're not fighting soldiers. We're fighting a civilization that weaponized kindness. Back aboard the Ataraxia, Lisa sat alone in her ready room, reading the latest intel. 32 systems had gone quiet. Not conquered. Not invaded. Just quiet. Harper entered, holding 2 cups. You really think this works? He asked, handing her one. It's already working, she said. We're not feared because we kill. We're feared because we don't have to. Harper sipped. And when they adapt? She looked up. Then we stop being nice. The room was quiet. Then Harper chuckled. I'll start prepping the next gift crate. Outside, the stars watched in silence. The galaxy, long used to warlords and empires, now faced something worse. A species that offered help, and meant it. A people whose kindness had teeth. And a fleet of diplomats with guns that only fired when the lesson didn't stick. But mostly, they smiled. And nothing was more terrifying than that.